Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in to a very scary, spooky edition of the Fantasy Roundup. I'm your host, Spencer, the Guru Urquhart. Alongside me is Gabe Henderson. You scared, man? Check my background.
Hey, you know what? You got a scary background. I got Death Valley in my background. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of Halloween theme. Halloween nights and cannon blasts, as LSU fans know it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it tends to treat LSU quite nicely. This year, though, LSU going to have to travel to Tuscaloosa, so that could be a bit of a challenge there. I made my little prediction and actually just dropped on bet.NOLA.com. Y'all head on over if y'all interested in that. Safe to say I did flip, though. If y'all listened yesterday, I was on one side of the fence. I've now flipped a little more toward the side that Gabe back there is on. So go check out my final score pick and best bet. But in the meantime, make sure to, just stay tuned in for all the fantasy news and check out Caesar Sportsbook for those that are looking to get in on the sports betting action. Sign up with Caesar's first bet on them, I believe. Head on over, though, for the full details of that offer. So, yeah, let's get right into it, Gabe. Let's talk about our headlines here. Kirk Cousins placed on the IR. Vikings acquired Josh Dobbs to presumably fill in for him at quarterback. Tough break there. The Vikings are really getting rolling. I believe they've won 3 in a row now. And then Justin Jefferson's on IR now. Kirk Cousins. Vikings just seem to be jinxed this year. But Josh Dobbs might be able to keep him afloat. He was done okay with the Cardinals, but they got Kyler Murray back, so they didn't need Dobbs anymore. He is now a Minnesota Viking. Bills signed Leonard Fournette to the practice squad. Maybe we'll see a return of playoff Lenny. Bills, pretty good team there. Needed some help in the backfield. We'll see if Fournette can boost them up. DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, acquired by the Lions. One of the few deals done this deadline involving offensive players. This deadline kind of spicy. But by the way, the NFL trade deadline came and went. It was at 3 p.m. our time, 4 p.m. Eastern. So it is now past. So not many skilled players moved. Donovan Peoples-Jones, one of the few that was, though, going from the Browns to the Lions. Lions needed some receiver help. Now they got it with DPJ. And Will Levis, me and Gabe's favorite quarterback, set to start on Thursday night after throwing 4 touchdowns. Jim and I had a debate about that, about whether that was just a fluke with him just being his first start, or was it the Falcons defense getting exposed? I mean, I think it was a little bit of both. But yeah, well, I guess we can start with that game. I know you were very down on Levis. Did those 4 touchdowns impress you any, or are you still?
No. No, let's call it for what it is, Spencer. That first touchdown shouldn't have stood. DeAndre Hopkins put A.J. Terrell in a chokehold. And it was OPI all the way, shouldn't have stood. And then let's be honest. I know yesterday you cited lack of game film, but Will Levis is exactly what we thought he was. He's a guy with a big arm who will turn the ball over. He didn't in his first game. That's because the Falcons didn't defend the deep ball for some reason. I don't know why they didn't game plan for that, because it was announced beforehand that Will Levis was starting. But no, I mean, if you're expecting him to keep this up, don't. He's got a tough matchup this week. I wouldn't even touch him in fantasy.
Right, yeah, at Pittsburgh on a short week, almost certainly going to come back to reality. Safe to say he's not on any of our waiver wire lists because they actually have some somewhat promising quarterbacks rostered in less than 30% of leagues, surprisingly. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. One more thing I'd like to say, subscribe to the Body Bets YouTube channel. Please, if you haven't already, make sure to go over there. If you're not already watching on that channel, please give us a subscribe. It helps us out a lot. We thank y'all for listening each and every week. So please just do us that small favor if you so can. So let's talk trade deadline, man. Not a whole lot to talk about from a fantasy perspective because there just weren't many offensive players moved. I mean, they had a lot of defensive players move. The Commanders essentially blew up their whole defensive line, which just, I don't understand that. I mean, I maybe see Chase Young, but him and Montez Sweat getting moved, I was like, wow, because they already can't stop people. So it's going to be a long rest of the season for them, I would think. But I'd like to get your thoughts, Gabe, on the Josh Dobbs thing. Do you see him being a stabilizing figure for the Vikings at quarterback moving forward? Or because they also have Nick Mullins, who might be back from IR. So what are your thoughts on Dobbs? Do you think he ends up starting there for the rest of the week?
It'll be interesting to see if he starts the rest of the way. I think them going out and getting Josh Dobbs kind of tells us that Nick Mullins still needs a little more time on IR. I don't think he's. I think he's got to sit out for one more game. I think he'll sit out for that, maybe a little longer. But yeah, I really like, if Josh Dobbs is going to be the starter, I really like this move. In most leagues, he's been a top 10 quarterback this season in fantasy, even though he was playing for the Cardinals. And he's just upgraded his weapons, especially once Justin Jefferson comes back. So he's a guy who, as we've seen over the last few seasons, can come into new environments, adapt quickly, and learn on the fly. I think he'll be comfortable. I really like this move for him, actually.
Yeah, gotta give Josh Dobbs credit. Not a lot of quarterbacks can shift team to team like he can. Very few have that ability, and he must be one of them because teams keep giving him chances to fill in. And if he keeps it up, maybe he'll eventually get to be a starter. I doubt it because he just doesn't seem to have quite the arm to get there, but he can run. I mean, he's a dual threat option. So as long as he's starting, he's always going to be at least in the QB2 conversation in fantasy, I feel like, because he's got that rushing floor.
Yeah, I really like the fit here with the Vikings because, and I see this as the Vikings realizing that they can still make a playoff run. I'm not going to say they'll go deep. There's too many juggernauts in the NFC, in Philly, San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit, even. But I think that as we've talked about before many times, those last few spots are up for grabs, and I think Josh Dobbs is a guy that could get him into one of those last few wild card spots.
Yeah, for sure. And also keep an eye on Seattle. They just made a trade for Leonard Williams, try to beef up their defense. I know Geno Smith's kind of struggled over there, but I could see Seattle being sneaky potentially.
Yeah, me too. I really like Seattle.
So, and then the Lions, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah, that's a solid move for them because let's be real, y'all. Jameson Williams has simply not panned out so far. Maybe he will eventually. I'd still recommend keeping him stashed in fantasy, but for now, the bottom line is he's not very reliable, and so you need another option besides Amon-Ra and Laporta. And Josh Reynolds, he is what he is. He's nothing special. So now you throw DPJ in the mix, and now the Lions, to me, that boosts them a pretty good bit.
Yeah, as we saw with the Claypool move a few weeks ago, I'm not usually high on receivers who get traded. They usually don't work out. It's usually just a like just give up a late draft pick and see kind of thing. I actually think Donovan Peoples-Jones will work out in Detroit. I really like this move. It's probably my favorite move of deadline day, although obviously, you look at the defensive moves the teams made, especially Chase Young to San Francisco. That move is going to pay dividends very quickly, I think. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, really good receiver, struggling to get targets in Cleveland this year. I think he's going to fit in like a glove in Detroit.
Yeah, it can't be any worse than Cleveland because, Cleveland's passing game, a total train wreck right now. PJ Walker, just like, I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson, but anyone that thinks PJ Walker's better than Deshaun Watson is just silly. I know Deshaun Watson has had his share of struggles, and I know you like to get on him, Gabe, for being a bust for signing that contract, but come on, man. Deshaun Watson is way better than PJ Walker. So for the Browns' sake, they better hope Watson gets back soon because that watching with PJ Walker, it's just dreadful.
I'm not going to go as far as to say PJ Walker is better than Deshaun Watson. I'm not crazy, but I would rather have PJ Walker for the contract he's on than Deshaun Watson for the one that he's on.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's just, you can find PJ Walkers anywhere, though. That's no offense to him, but quarterbacks like that are a dime a dozen. Where if Watson's right, Watson, when he's right, is an above average quarterback. He's just yet to be right since his Texans days. So to me, they were way out of line to give him a fully guaranteed deal, considering how much uncertainty was surrounding him. But that's a discussion for another day. DPJ, not necessarily a waiver wire ad, but someone to keep an eye on, especially in deeper leagues. So make sure to watch Donovan Peoples-Jones. So we look at y'all shy today. Y'all scared of the spooky season. We don't be shy, y'all. We've got a Q&A segment here coming up in just a couple minutes. We're going to do our listener league recap, but please, by all means, if you're listening, have start-sit questions, trade questions, waiver wire questions. Feel free to drop them in the comments because we'll have our Q&A session coming up very soon. But before then, let's recap Week 8 Listener League. Bucktown Rebel, shout out to him. Roy defeats Mike there. Highest total of the week. Bucktown Rebel, our defending champion, rolling when it matters. Mid-season, peaking at mid-season. Can he keep it going, though, is the question. I've had teams that peak mid-season and then crumble come playoff time, but Bucktown was a steady force all last season, so definitely feel like he's going to return to the playoffs there. Mike in good shape, too, at 5-3. Latino Heat, baby. Shout out to Hank Trill. Now in sole possession of first at 6-2, kind of kicking myself for doing that trade with him there. Dak and CD both went off, and I'm sure Gabe's got mad at me too for doing it because it caused him to take an L despite scoring 145 points.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks, Spencer.
Yeah, just a tough break because, kind of like my week there. I was facing William. Neither one of us had great weeks, but he ended up edging me out there. If I'd have started DeAndre Hopkins, who was part of that aforementioned Dak CD deal, I'd have won the week, but I benched him because I had no idea what to expect from the Titans quarterback situation. And yeah, and didn't work out for me there. Fell a little bit short. Uncle Big Nick getting some momentum going. He had a big week, defeated Joseph there, who's been struggling. UBN on the upswing with Burrow and Chase. That stack has treated him good as of late. Salmon back on the winning ways. He's the only 500 on the dot team. They're 4-4. Defeated original Saints fan who was trying to get a winning streak going, but unfortunately for him, back in the loss column. And Bucktown Rebel Jr. Cameron, he squeaked one out against Troy. Who, man, Troy, what happened, bud? You listening, man? What happened? 58? Come on, Troy. You that might be the worst total of the listener league. I'm sorry. I gotta get on Troy for that. That was a stinker, my guy. And who is that UBN guy? Yeah, I had written him off. I thought he was out of the mix, but hey, that Burrow Chase stack, man, it's gotta watch UBN here down the stretch.
Bayou Boys got him coming back.
What's up?
I said the Bayou Boys got him coming back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that I was high on that stack, when he did it, but then when the injury, with the calf, I was like, man, he had dug himself a hole there. But now that they're rolling, it's looking up for them, the Bengals and UBN's team. He's essentially the Bengals of our fantasy league here, fantasy roundup listener league. Shout out to all the loyal listeners in there. And yeah, speaking of the Bengals, though, Jim and I had this debate about Carr versus Burrow, and I was like, come on, man. Like, no offense to Carr, which, little spoiler alert, y'all, Carr is one of my waiver wire pickups for this week. So I'm not at all a Carr hater, but comparing Derek Carr to Joe Burrow, to me, is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I understand what he was trying to do with the stats, and we know Jim likes to stir the pot a little bit, but, going forward, Joe Burrow is a top 5 fantasy quarterback for me, probably, because he looked immaculate the other day. He looked healthy. He was running.
Yeah, against the 49ers, like a legit defense.
Yeah, he looked really good the other day, and I'm really high on the Bengals once again now that he's healthy. Not that I was ever down on him, and with them it's always like, well, let's give it a few weeks and see, and we did, and here they are again.
For sure. So we haven't got any questions yet, so we'll circle back to the Q&A at the end. Let's get to our waiver wire segment here. I'll kick it off and talking about Derek Carr. Got him as an ad this week. I was surprised he was only 21.3% rostered. I'd have thought that would have gone up more because coming into last week, he had 2 straight 300-yard passing games, and now he made that 3 straight with his best week of the year against the Colts. And I tell you what, I think he might make it even better this week because he returns home to the Superdome and faces the freaking Bears, who have quit, especially on defense. Their defense is awful, just awful. Even their top corner is wanting out. I don't know if he got his wish. I don't think he did, Jalen Johnson, but those guys, they're just not in it. And their linebacker, Tremaine Edmonds, one of their good linebackers, is out. They are a train wreck right now to where, to me, there's no excuse for Derek Carr not to throw. This, I think, is the week he finally throws for 3 touchdowns. He might not get the yards again because I think the Saints will be up by 20 plus by the second half, but he needs to get that red zone efficiency up, and he did so last week, and I think he'll do so again this week. I mean, this is the dream matchup on paper.
Yeah, we saw I think Justin Herbert threw 12 passes before he threw an incompletion the other night against the Bears. I mean, he absolutely torched them. They probably could have put up 60 points if they wanted to, but
facts. That's what I'm saying. Just seeing that on Sunday
not
night was, oof. That's all I needed to see. I mean, that's a team that they have quit. I mean, they have simply quit. And UBN's looking to add Fournette to the Bayou Boys team. I almost put Fournette on this list because the simple fact that there is just hardly anything available at running back this week, y'all. If y'all need a running back this week, I hate to break it to you, it is very slim pickings. A lot of that has to do with no significant running back injuries for this week, which is good to see. Don't wish injury on anyone, but let's be real, a lot of times injuries lead to waiver wire opportunities. Guys that normally wouldn't have opportunities to get those opportunities, but didn't have any of that this week. So I'm going with Justice Hill. He's a guy that's just been kind of treading water as the Ravens RB2, but the reason I'm encouraged about him moving forward is because he's the guy that they use in passing situations. Yeah, Gus Bus is their bruiser, the goal line back, but Justice Hill's a guy that's seeing – like 4 or 5 targets from Lamar, nothing special, but enough to kind of keep him in the PPR mix. And he's got a few touchdowns on the year, and he gets Seattle this week, who aren't a great defense, to where I think that he could get out in space and maybe score 1 or 2, because they're definitely going to be keying in more on Gus, as they saw what Gus did last week. I think they're going to playing, especially now the Leonard Williams trade, they're going to be a little stingier up front than the Cardinals, and the Cardinals suck. So, I mean, the Seahawks going to make it a little tougher on Gus Bus, where I think Justice Hill could get out in space and put up some numbers.
Yeah, for sure. A little teaser to mine is you let me cheat this week a little bit by the slimmest of margins, and if you wouldn't have allowed me to do that, Justice Hill was the guy that I was going to go with. I think his targets that he's getting are enough to justify him here, along with the fact that the Ravens didn't trade for a running back, as they said they were interested in doing at the deadline.
For sure. Yeah, I had to let you, because if you'd have taken Hill, I'd have had no one left. Or I guess I could have taken Fournette.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, but James Cook's the starter over there. I mean, Fournette, he might pass Latavius. I don't think he's going to pass James Cook, but yeah, you brought up a good point about the Ravens not making a running back move. A lot of people assume they'd be the team that would get Derrick Henry, but I guess they figured it just wasn't worth giving up the assets necessary to get Derrick Henry, because Gus Bus has been carrying the load as the early down guy.
Yeah, he's looked really good so far, especially last weekend.
Yeah, he may have saved his job with that 3 touchdown performance. So going with a deep dive here at wide receiver, Khalil Shakir. I could have put Rashid Shaheed on here. He's less than 30%, but I'll just be real with y'all. Rashid Shaheed's going to be a very up and down fantasy option because it's his A-dot. He's got a very high average depth of target, but that leads to volatile fantasy production. And so if you have him in best ball, great. But in season long, I still don't think I can trust Rashid Shaheed, being that Olave and Michael Thomas still out-target him and shoot. Even with now Taysom Hill and Kamara getting a lot of I just don't think there's enough for Rashid to be consistently involved each week. Where Khalil Shakir, the Bills' offense is pretty simple as far as it's Diggs, there's the alpha, and then behind him you've got Kincaid, who's been pretty solid. Gabe Davis, who's a yo-yo. He's basically the Shaheed of the Bills' offense. So where I think Shakir could be kind of like the Michael Thomas of the Bills' offense. Yeah, he's not going to put up flashy numbers, but I think he could end up having a stable floor. He's been steadily trending up, seeing more targets each week. And in that offense, they throw it a ton over there. Even though they signed Lenny, that's still a very pass-heavy offense there with Josh Allen. So thinking Shakir, he's still young. He's still got room for growth. I feel like he's clearly passed up Deontay Hardy as the number 3 receiver over there, and could end up passing Gabe Davis as the number 2.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation. I mean, we saw the Bills spread the ball out last week on Thursday Night Football, and everyone but Diggs was seemingly going off. I know a lot of people were joking that Diggs ruined a lot of parlays. He'll obviously be fine, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Bills pass the ball. And and spread it around over the next few weeks with that offense looking to bounce back again.
Mm-hmm. And even Diggs I think he still saw like 10 targets. I think he only had like 60 yards though, and a Tupac here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm buying it because it's just been that offense. That offense is just like you can't get much more fantasy friendly than that as far as the amount of pass attempts over there. And I feel like it's with the Chiefs, they've got. I mean, Mahomes, it's fantasy friendly for him and Kelsey. And with the Bills, it was kind of looking like that with Allen Diggs. But then I was encouraged what I saw last week with the passing it, the spreading it around. So yeah, it was good to see that go down. And my tight end option here, Trey McBride, had to go with him. I think you had him last week, Gabe. Only about 8% rostered, and he went off. So anyone that got Trey McBride last week, listen to us on that. Props to you. We also recommended Kincaid. So if you got either one, you were winning. But Kincaid now well off the board. So I mean, Trey McBride is now, if you need a tight end, which I'm sure a lot of y'all do, being that it's a wasteland of a position, Trey McBride, the man the roster.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he fares this week because the Cardinals have said that they're starting Clayton Tune. Kyler Murray is going to be held out another week, so it's Clayton Tune from the University of Houston.
Yeah, he's a rookie, though, so he'll lean on the tight end, I would think.
I was just going to say, we know how rookies love to lean on their tight ends, and with Zach Ertz still on the IR, Trey McBride's got another chance to thrive.
Yeah, for sure. And he saw a lot of targets last week. Granted, it was Josh Dobbs, but Zach Ertz isn't there anymore. So I think he's in a good spot to continue to have success. So, yeah, go ahead. Trey McBride. He had over 100 yards, I believe. So he's clearly got some talent. And who do they get this week? The Browns. Fairly tough matchup. But, again, I would say, yeah, go at him. Go at it. Yeah, Tupac Shakir there with the Bills. Justice Hill. And Derek Carr got some solid waiver pickups there for y'all, even though there just isn't a whole lot there. But Gabe has a few for y'all as well. So take it away, man. I see you got Bryce Young this week at QB.
Yeah, I mean, all the Saints fans watching got to see what the Saints offense did to the Indianapolis defense. I think Indianapolis is a really vulnerable defense right now, and Bryce Young had probably his best game of the season against the Texans last week. I think he's going to continue that hot streak. He's got that first win under his belt. I think he's going to put up some numbers against an Indianapolis defense that lets teams pass all over him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good matchup for him. He showed a little bit of promise last week against the Texans. Didn't have a great week, but it seemed like with the new play caller helped him out a little bit there. So yeah, I could see adding Bryce Young, and then I got Zach Charbonnet at running back. Cheated slightly there, but I mean it's basically right at 30. So yeah, tell us why you're going with Charbonnet.
Yeah, the Seahawks didn't run the ball much last week, but when they did, they were effective with both backs. I think between the two of them, between Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, they averaged about 10 yards a carry. So Charbonnet, he's on the up. He's looking up. He's getting more carries. He's running the ball better. And with Kenneth Walker, they took him off the injury report on Friday, but he was nursing an ankle injury last week. So it's something to monitor with Kenneth Walker kind of frequently getting banged up, especially mid-season, late season. So I think Zach Charbonnet now, all the people who rostered him early, I think it's a good time to pick him back up. We could see his role increase even ever so slightly, but he's proven to be over the last 2 weeks the guy that they wanted when they drafted him.
Right. Yeah, I'm 100% with you on this. Charbonnet, someone I've got stashed in a couple spots. And yeah, I just felt like it was worth keeping him because with Ken Walker, yeah, he's really good, but he's a bruising physical runner that could get hurt at any time. I hope he doesn't. I got him as well in some leagues, but if he does, Charbonnet is going to be an elite fantasy option, I feel like. In that offense, they freaking run the ball. And they also throw it. They run a lot of plays. And I see you also like the young wide out there, Jake Bobo.
Yeah, I was going to say we've both got some insanely deep dives with our picks. A lot of people thought 2 weeks ago that Bobo did well in their game because DK Metcalf was out, but DK Metcalf returned to the field last week. And the Seahawks just, similar to other teams we've talked about earlier, especially the Bills, they spread the ball out really well. Geno, regardless of what you think about him as a quarterback, Tyler Lockett had a good week. Metcalf had some opportunities, and Bobo put up another good week. So, I think if you're looking for that deep dive against the Browns, who are probably going to cover those guys, the Lockett, JSN.
I get the Ravens. Ravens.
Oh, Ravens. My bad. The
Okay.
Ravens are probably going to lock up those guys pretty well. I think Bobo could be a nice option in deeper leagues this week.
Yeah, potentially, for sure. It just, he's someone that, again, probably need an injury to happen to, like, really be relevant there, because if you got DK, Lockett, and JSN, those 3 wide sets, Bobo, I mean, he'll get some, but, yeah, he kind of touchdown dependent. He got the rushing touchdown last week, so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think he's worth a speculative ad in deeper formats. And I see we got a couple of questions for y'all. We'll get to those in just a minute, but Gabe's got his last waiver pickup, which is a New Orleans Saint there in Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I had to go with the Saints player since you did as well. Taysom Hill, his role in the offense in this quote-unquote dumbed-down offense that we've seen from the Saints over the last few days, his role's increased. With the tight end position being an absolute wasteland, as you said earlier, I think Taysom Hill, who involves himself in all facets of the offense, could be a consistent play.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, he even throws a few passes. He's mainly been thriving as a runner.
Mm-hmm.
Might catch a few as well. But as a runner, he's basically been like the Saints fullback and probably been getting more snaps with the Saints actual fullback on IR. I don't even think the Saints have an active fullback at the moment, to where Pete Carmichael is kind of an old school play caller, tends to like to use a bruising back or sometimes as a blocker. But the way Taysom is, I mean, you got to get the ball in his hands. And so far the Saints have kept true to that promise of getting him more involved. So, yeah, in the tight end spot, yeah, he's for sure worth an ad, because I like McBride, because he's been, the receiving option available. But if he's gone and you just need just like that somewhat dependable touchdown dependent option, if that was a mouthful there, but if that makes sense, dependable touchdown scoring option, I guess would be the better way to say it, because Taysom with those goal line carries, it's somewhat, you can count on it somewhat more than just a guy that, they just throw up a fade pattern and hope he gets it.
Yeah, it's the versatility. And as you mentioned, the touchdown scoring that, a lot of tight ends this year has struggled to find the end zone. We saw Hayden Hurst was a guy that we liked preseason and early in the season. And Tommy Tremble's getting touchdowns for Carolina now in recent games. So it's a crapshoot at the tight end position. So you might as well go for someone who is involved in all facets of the offense.
Yeah, it really is. So, get Taysom over those just complete speculation options at tight end. So let's get our Q&A segment here for y'all. Appreciate everyone for sticking around with us here on Fantasy Roundup. This will be our last segment before we head out. Mark, thanks for tuning in, Mark, as he's got Taysom as his avatar there. He said, who the Saints going to play at QB week 10 at Minnesota, Nick Mullins or Joshua Dobbs? I would think Dobbs, bro, because I think he'll be ready. He'll know the playbook. I think they did this trade because they're figuring Mullins probably isn't going to be ready anytime soon. So I'm gonna guess Dobbs.
Yeah, I agree with you. As I said earlier, I don't think they traded for Dobbs just so he could sit on the bench the same way he would do in Arizona. I think they played their hand this season going with him, with Kyler Hurd over Clayton Tune. Clayton Tune's more of a guy for the future for them. I think over the last few weeks, Dobbs has just been showcased. And with Kirk Cousins' injury, I think Minnesota took the bait, and I think they got a good quarterback. Not stellar, but for fantasy, he's a good option, and I think they'll roll with him.
Yep. I think that makes the Vikings a little more of a threat to the Saints in week 10, as opposed to either a banged up Mullins or that rookie who's supposed to start for them this week. Do you know, is Jaron Hall? Jaron Hall's supposed to start for them this week. I think they get Atlanta this week, so that's a break for the Falcons, who I know they had an ugly L last week, but I think Atlanta gets back in the win column this week. So the Saints are going to need to make sure they're sharp against the Bears. Can't take anything for granted in the NFL. So we got our last question though from Neek. I'm trading away JT, Godwin, and Josh Downs for Mahomes, Rashad White, and Amari Cooper. Whoo, that's a spicy deal. My current lineup is Sam Howell, JT, McCaffrey, AJ Brown, Nakwa, and Pitts. Is that a smart move?
Probably not. I would lean no. I don't think you need Amari Cooper per se. I think JT is a better option going forward than Rashad White, and I need to see your backup running backs. But I think you're losing too much at running back.
He's also got Mostert.
Okay, then that changes things. I think it's a smart move then if you've got Mostert.
Okay, yeah, because that gives you more solid depth. And Mahomes, let's be real, he's a huge upgrade over Sam Howell. I know Howell's off to a really good start, but I mean the Commanders, they're tearing that ship down there. They don't care about winning this year. And I mean, it maybe could lead to some good weeks. I just think it'll be like some weeks Howell will look really good, and other weeks he'll just end up getting crushed. So I don't like Sam Howell as a reliable QB1. So yeah, I mean, if you're getting the best in the business in Mahomes, and that's worth it. Because I like Rashad White for PPR. Cooper should pick up if Watson comes back, which I would think he'd be in the next week or two. And then sucks trading away Josh Downs. He's really trending up. But I mean, to get this package back, I think it was worth it.
Yeah, and realistically, you're not going to start Josh Downs over the guys that he had in AJ Brown and Puka.
Yeah, I didn't really need Josh Downs.
Yeah, no, if you've got Mostert and Herbert sitting there, I think that's absolutely worth it.
Right. Yeah, Justin Fields, I mean, he might get shut down or something for all he knows. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's not the guy to have in a redraft league. So yeah, good deal there to get the GOAT, man, Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, my dad has one for us. How'd you compare Minshew, Dad, not Minshew, and Mayfield going forward as a backup?
I like Carr.
Yeah, same. I mean,
weapons, and the Saints have the easiest schedule, and it's as easy as that.
Yeah, I mean, they're all fairly decent, but yeah, to me, Mayfield is what he is. He's just, I mean, Carr is not amazing, but he's at least someone he's been a proven starter over the past decade. Where, I mean, Minshew, he'll have his moments. He's kind of like Howell, though. I think he'll have some big games, some bad ones. Carr, I think, will have less bad games than Minshew and Mayfield. So, with that being said, I'd probably go with him.
Yeah, but the backup quarterback, you want to look for consistency and even a favorable matchup the week that your starter is on bye. So maybe take a look at those. But I like Carr overall. I think he's the most consistent and probably has the highest upside for the rest of the season.
Facts. All right. Well, I think that's any other questions before we go? Feel free to drop them in because we're about to sign off. So any final thoughts, Gabe?
Yeah, tonight's all about trick-or-treating, Spencer. You could get some treats in your little goodie bag, or you could get a trick, and that trick being Bijan Robinson. Arthur Smith, you need to do better. It's no secret that he's the key to your offense. As soon as he started getting carries last week, the Falcons started getting back into the game, but at that point it was too late. Bijan Robinson has tricked fantasy owners, and I don't necessarily think he's to blame. I think it's Arthur Smith. I think Arthur Smith has mismanaged that ship for the entirety of the year. He's lucky he's playing in the worst division in football. Otherwise, he'd be probably sitting in last place right now with the way that he's coached that team. And honestly, I don't see why they drafted Bijan so early if they're not going to use him properly. And I'm not talking about 2 weeks ago. I'm talking about this week when he hardly got any touches. He didn't get a chance to thrive.
Yeah, we said the same thing about Kyle Pitts, same thing about Drake London. The Falcons, they take all these fancy cars off the lot and don't even take them out. It's like, well, why'd you waste your money on that? Like, why are you wasting draft capital on all these skilled players if you don't know how to use them? So yeah, Arthur Smith definitely has to take a look in the mirror there because it's like the Saints. You got the whole thing in front of you. So Falcons and Saints, I guess it's going to come down to who sucks less.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, neither one are in very good spots, but someone's got to win it, and I don't think it'll be Tampa or Carolina. So we shall see. But yeah, that's hopefully we start getting more treats and tricks from Bijan. My final thought would just be, World Series Game 4 tonight. It's going to be crazy. I'm thinking the D-backs find a way. They just seem like they're not going to go away without a fight. I think they can take this Game 4 at home, at least get one game at home. Because if not, if they lose tonight, that series is over.
I wouldn't go that far. I think the answer backs are in a position that they like, but I think it would benefit them, obviously, to win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to answer back tonight. If you're down 3-1 in the World Series, and you're already the less talented team, the answer, you can only answer back so many times, I feel like. And look at what Gibbs did when he finally got full usage. Yeah, that was nice to see. Montgomery, when he comes back, will still be involved. But, yeah, definitely nice to see Gibbs turn up. It sucks that one league I had Gibbs. He almost led me back, almost had one of his Monday Night Miracles, but still fell short by a couple points. I was like,
yep.
Sometimes it's just not meant to be. But oh well, yeah, it was fun last night. Glad the Lions covered, helped me out in some bets there, and so yeah, we'll see how things go. Pels took an L last night. That didn't surprise me. I saw that coming, but I think they'll be okay moving forward. But Brandon Ingram ended up hurt. You gotta stay healthy, Pelicans. But we know how that goes. We'll be lucky if those guys play 60 games a piece, and we know which two I'm talking about. Zion, Ingram. So yeah. Get on the court, damn it. But enough about that. We'll be back again on Thursday for Bayou Bets. Jim Derry, myself, Gabe Henderson, Thomas Casale. We'll have our big bucks picks. I finally had a green week. I won't give you too much crap, Gabe. Jim is more to giving you the fair share of smack talk. So I'll spare you today, but we'll have to Thursday's gonna you gotta turn the ship around, man. I was down bad too, so it's possible. But
got to try some new things, but we'll get back. Rest assured.
For sure. So, all right, well, that's going to do it here for Fantasy Roundup. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. Have a happy Halloween, and we'll be back next week. See y'all later.